Hello folks, what's going on, and welcome to my video. Today I'll be talking about state of Minnesota. The background, you're seeing the city of Minneapolis, and I live just about 30 minutes south of the city, what we call here is south of the river, the Mississippi River. Lately, basically the state, especially Minneapolis, has been on the national news, and not for a good reason. Definitely not for the cold weather of Minnesota. Currently, it is a real feel. It's real cold. I mean, it's like 10 below. I was just out right now. I was taking the trash and recycle container in, and it's gonna be only getting colder. So it's pretty cold. But that's not the reason why Minnesota made the national news, right? The real reason is the incredibly massive amount of fraudulent activities, extremely large case of fraudulent activities that the federal agencies, that they've been working on these for years, actually for a long time. Eventually they have completed their investigations, and they reported officially in their official capacity that beyond a reasonable doubt, various different schemas and scams that have taken place in institutions and cases like Medicaid or housing services or health services, human health services, and those all the combined total dollars that they've been basically stolen from the Minnesota taxpayers have been in excess of $1 billion. I repeat, in excess of letter B, $1 billion. There are three separate cases, three separate scams that they basically uncovered. One is the HSS, in short abbreviation, Housing Stabilization Services. The other one is Feed My Starving Children, and the third one is a Medicaid fraud, and that was for autistic children. I already made a video about this, the details of what they found, so I'm not gonna spend more time on it. I just wanted to kind of give it a little bit of a touch base and kind of set a context. That's what I was trying to do. But what I want to primarily talk about is what has been going on after all these crimes have been found, have been uncovered, and people have been arrested, and dozens and dozens and dozens of people, all Somalis, without an exception, have been arrested. Eventually, and on my previous video I said that it was going to be going up to all the way to top, in this case the presidency of the United States. And Trump has been very, very verbal about this. Anyone who watched Trump's press conference yesterday, I'm not going to repeat the words, heard probably what he was saying and how he was referring to the Somali community in Minneapolis. Minneapolis, by the way, is a house of the largest Somali community in the United States. The total population of the Somali refugees or immigrants in the U.S. is about 230,000 people. That's the whole country. And the largest settlement is the city of Minneapolis, and that is 84,000. Give and take 84,000 Somalis living currently in the city of Minneapolis. So as of yesterday, after the issue has been presented to the President Trump, and he took action, he made a decision, and the first thing he did several days ago was he removed the TSP, the temporary TPS, the temporary protected status of the Somalis. Not every single one of them has this status, technically. I mean, I don't know how many, but actually it's not a huge number. But he removed all the TPS status for all applicable to all Somalis. So that's the first initial decision that he took, and following that, he decided to send the federal agencies, the ICE agents, 100 of them, and they came here as of yesterday. So the ICE agents started their operation in the city of Minneapolis, basically to find, spot, and arrest, detain, and deport those whose TPS status had been removed. As you can imagine, there's a lot of noise going on. A lot of Somali people are bitching and complaining about what's happening, and they're being subjected to all these, unfair type of, treatment and all that. That's all racist, Islamophobic, all the typical bigotry and all that stuff that, all these words and more. We've been hearing a lot, to the point that, to me anymore, they're like a sound bites. They don't carry any meaning and any weight. Because they've been used and abused heavily, all these labels that I just listed and mentioned. So yeah, I mean, they've been bitching and complaining, and I was listening, and I watched a lot of videos about on this issue, and one of the guys, he was saying on the video that I don't know how to explain this to my daughter, what's going on. His daughter, he was saying his daughter was asking him, Dad, what's happening? Why is it that these people are basically targeting us like this? Why do they not like us, or things like that? Excuse me. And he was saying basically he was having problems to explain, in any intelligent manner what's happening. And I basically put a comment under that video, and I said this: hey dude, now listen to me. Let me help you actually with you explaining this to your daughter. I've been hearing you guys, Somalis, bitching and moaning all the time, and always the typical things. They're doing this because we're African, because we're black, and blah 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 blah. And they never say, I never heard a single person, single Somali, in saying this. If they found, and they did, there was huge scam, a mass amount of funds have been stolen from the state of Minnesota taxpayers. Not a single Somali person said this. Since this is the case, first off, punish those who did this. And then, you as, I would say, you as Somali community, I'd be, if I were you, I'd be gathering up and decide to take the next step and to clean up our name. Like, this is what happened. That's not bullshit. It really happened. It really did happen. And it was committed 100% without an exception by Somalis. So why not, first off, admitting your crime. It may not be you necessarily, individual. I'm not saying every single Somali was part of this, but unfortunately this is what happens if, as a community, a lot of people, this is not a 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 people. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of people. Out of 84,000 people, if that many people have been basically found out guilty on these crimes, then before bitching and moaning, I'd be gathering my people and talking about what we need to do. How can we make amendments to the American people? This is the country that they took them, they accepted them, they welcomed them, they gave them, the food, education, health care, and they came from a war-torn country, and basically they gave them their livelihood. And this is how they pay their thank yous to this country, by stealing over $1 billion and sending that money to Somalia, to an international terrorist organization. It's called al-shabab, which is an affiliate of an al-Qaeda terrorist organization, which is responsible for 9/11 attacks. This is what happened. It is so serious. It is not the time to bitch and moan and constantly putting the blame, kind of trying to deflect and putting the blame on people, American people, telling them you're racist, you're bigot, you're Islamophobic, you're this, you're that. Why not even a single Somali person, taking ownership of their communities crimes, and then talk about the strategies and plans, coming up with plans to tell American people, we did this, our community committed these horrible crimes, we stole those monies, and we sent them out to Somalia, and whatever the reason, okay, we're gonna have to talk about finding ways to clean our names. This is what Somali people need to do. But no, they're constantly deflecting and constantly, blaming everyone else, in this case, every American, who are basically thinking that they should be punished. And I think every crime should be punished. And they should not think, because of the fact that they're refugees, they were brought from Africa, and all these, and especially, let's call it what it is, under the liberal agenda, under the woke agenda. So far, they've been all untouchable. And as they've been committing to crimes, as I described, and especially my previous video, explain in more detail about this, people in this state, those in power, political power, the liberal Democrats, they've been turning their heads away. They've been looking the other way around. They totally and completely ignored what was happening. In fact, the governor, Tim Walz, the governor of state of Minnesota, 400 employees of those state agencies, all these agencies that I mentioned before, like Medicaid, Department of Human Health Services, they've been, all of them, they're very verbal, and all saying the same thing, that all those warnings, the whistleblowers, Tim Walz has been retaliating them. So far his actions were all retaliatory, and he was doing his best to cover up every single documentation that could be used in the court as an evidence that would prove that all these fraudulent activities have been taking place under his watch as a governor. So up to the governor, under this woke liberal, extreme radical liberal agenda, the crimes that Somalis have been committed to, it's really incredible to say that they've been immune to any kind of crime that they've been committed so far. And like I said, they established these rings, and then they came up with these schemes to basically siphon hundreds of millions of dollars, in excess of $1 billion, back to Somalia. In fact, one of the most amazing examples, even during this time when this whole thing has been happening, one of the guys who've been found guilty, one of the Somali guys who's been found guilty by jury, he's been found guilty for stealing $7.2 million, and the judge, her name is Sarah, the judge has basically dismissed the guilty verdict that was reached by the jury. This is actually a very rare case that the judge is dismissing the verdict by the jury, but it has happened. It is basically insulting. I mean, it's adding adding salt to the wound. That's what happened. That's what it is. So this situation as well, the judge situation also went national, and they're also now scrutinizing this particular judge and saying the decision that she made, the fact that she actually overturned, they dismissed the guilty verdict of jury. She will be held accountable. She'll be scrutinized, and scrutinized in great detail. This is what needs to be done. So my point here is this: even in the middle of all these horrible levels of fraudulent activities, everything is out in the open, everything has been proven beyond any reasonable doubt, and still radical liberal judge is capable of doing this. Now folks, think about it. If it wasn't like this, if they were still in power, radical Democrats, liberals, how worse it could have gotten. Remember Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota? He was running with his running mate Kamala Harris last November, for the presidency, right? I mean, this country dodged the bullet. This country dodged the bullet thanks to the sanity of the American people who realized what was going on, and they chose Trump as president. Otherwise, we were going to have Tim Walz as a vice president of the president, if Kamala Harris got the presidency. And imagine then at the national level what kind of things would be happening. If they had the balls and audacity if the radical judge had the balls and audacity to release, to basically dismiss the jury's decision and let the thief who stole $7.2 million from Minnesota taxpayers, imagine what would have happened. None of these is conspiracy theory. None of these is made up things or fabricated like a right-wing conspiracy kind of things. Everything is out in the open. Everything is being published. Everything is public knowledge and public information. Everyone can find the details of what the Somali community did, what kind of crimes they committed. And again, when I'm saying Somali community, I said that before. I'm not saying every single one of them is guilty. Obviously not. I mean, I watched a Somali girl saying, I'm 20 years old. She was saying, I'm a college student. I'm trying to get my college degree and start working, find a job, just like anyone else. Well, I believe in her, right? I respect what she's saying. But I was thinking, well, you are a collateral damage, sweetheart, because you know what? Your people thought, you were basically untouchable. You were immune to any kind of legal procedures and whatever. You're above the law because you're refugees. You're from Africa. You're black and all that. And the liberal radical Democratic gang in Minnesota, one of the blue states in the United States, is going to protect you no matter what your people do. And they were aware of that, and they did whatever they could. Folks, you know that Ilhan Omar, that Somali congresswoman from the 5th District, which is Minneapolis, sitting in the Senate as a congresswoman, she got elected as a congresswoman in the year 2019. When she got elected as congresswoman, her net worth was negative $45,000. She owed a lot of money in student loans and other credit cards and stuff like that. $45,000 in debt. Now fast forward to 2025, 6 years. Her net worth today is exceeding whopping $30 million. I don't know, do the math. This is whatever the salary the congresswoman has, and then trying to figure this out. But if you say, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has been involved with all these fraudulent activities, you'd be stopped. You'd be basically silenced as a racist. So here, that's what I said. The terms racist and bigot and Islamophobic and this and that anymore, to me, are just a meaningless soundbites. If you're serious, if you really mean business, because they've been basically abusing, exploiting those words in that situation. 84,000 Somalis. They're the voting power of the Democrats, for Democrats to hold on to power, to basically strengthen their grip on power in state politics, and to stay in charge, in power, for as long as they want. That's what's going on. And now, all this has taken place. And now everything is out and open, and they cannot anymore, no matter what they do, they cannot hide a thing. Everything is out and open. And God bless President Trump. He made a decision. He made the right call. And now federal agents are here, and I'm thinking if they're gonna basically try to prevent them from doing their jobs, they attack them. We saw this all happening all around the nation, right? We saw this in San Francisco. We saw this in Oregon. We saw this in Chicago. Well, then, I believe Trump should send a National Guard, and if not enough, maybe Delta Force, maybe Special Forces. I don't know. No matter, whatever it takes, those ICE agents should do their jobs to the best of their abilities to find, arrest, detain, and deport those people who fit the criteria. Folks, the money is that they stole from those public funds, those in excess of $1 billion. It's a huge sum. And that money, those monies basically was set up for those people, for Americans who are in need, for like autistic children, or for those people who are in need, affordable housing and those kinds of things. You know what they were saying? Feed my children. That's also another big fraudulent activity. And total money stolen under that name was $250 million. Just that one out of those three. And they found the restaurant, and they were using the name of the restaurant. I can't remember now, in Minneapolis, which has the seating capacity of 35. I mean, 35 people. That's it. You know how restaurants, they have determined seating capacity by the fire marshal, right? And that restaurant was designated as 35 people seating capacity. And that, according to their reports, they were saying tens of thousands of kids have been delivered meals through that restaurant. And nobody said what I just told you. A restaurant with 35 capacity, how in the world that was able to feed thousands, if not tens of thousands of kids? Well, because liberals were looking at the other way. That's what was happening. Everybody was turning their heads away. They knew what was happening. And who knows who else was basically getting kickoffs? Maybe Tim Walz, Tampon Tim. His nickname is Tampon Tim because he made a decision, and he said he ordered to put tampons in boys' rooms in high schools, middle schools, high schools, tampons for those boys feeling themselves as girls and stuff like all that shit. Yeah, that's why his nickname is Tampon Tim. Anyway, this is what I just wanted to kind of share with you. And the point of the message that I wanted to share with you was, instead of constantly bitching and moaning, I'm talking about Somalis, right? Please, only once, ask yourselves, what have you done to deserve this? No, not a single one of them. Not a, and I don't think I will ever hear this, because they're not these kind of people. And did you know what one of the Somali professor said? In it was, I don't know. It's funny anymore. It's really super ironic. And he said, stealing is okay, okay, for the Somali culture. In fact, forget about kind of shunning the down, or thinking that it's sin or whatever. It is even encouraged in Somali culture. So, guys, this is the kind of people we're dealing with, we're talking about. And God bless Trump, God bless ICE agents working currently now in this cold weather outside. It's got to be getting only colder. And now they're making their rounds in primarily and mostly the city of Minneapolis, to make those rounds to find and arrest those people, detain and deport. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for sparing time and listening to me. Talk to you later. Bye bye.